Hello and welcome to this podcast. This is VFitter University, and my name is Elijah. At VFitter, we are basically redefining learning, and we are focusing on practical education and the applications of AI in practicing science and converting knowledge into wisdom. Today, we are here with Carl Grant III, and I am very excited, and thank you so much for being here with me.
Well, Elijah, I'm happy to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me. So I guess I'll start with the most important things. I'm married 29 years, 5 kids. Youngest is at Baylor University, so they're adult kids. Spent 25 years in professional services business development for a top accounting firm and a top law firm. And now I have a consulting practice where I go out and I teach others how to do this and I help them do it. Have another business called Capital Raise that I do with my son, where we have built all of my investor contacts into a LinkedIn-like platform to help entrepreneurs raise capital, so we can direct them to the right sources of capital with warm introductions. And then I have a partnership with another business partner of mine in Pakistan called Super Connector, and we place business development professionals at conferences around the world on behalf of companies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are just a few of the things I'm involved with. I tend to stay busy. I'm chairman of a life sciences company as well.
Interesting. You have a lot on the table, and I'm just like, should we just talk about time management now? Because how do you do all of this? My first question is, what are your advices on time management?
Well, you got to know what your priorities are. That's number one, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I am very clear about what my priorities in my life are. My faith in God is number one. So I put that first. Number two is my family. Number three is health and fitness. Mm-hmm. And number four is my career. And so, when you set your priorities like that, a lot of people say, I don't have time to work out, or I don't have time to pray or study the Bible, or the Quran, or whatever your faith may be, right? I don't have time. Well, it's because it's not a priority of yours, right?
Exactly.
So I woke up this morning unprompted by myself at 3:00 in the morning. I was done sleeping, and so I get up and I start my day doing the things that are important to me. So did my quiet time, did Bible study with my wife, went to the gym early this morning, and then came back and started working, right? I mean, so I knocked out a lot of those things that people don't have time for when y'all were still sleeping. So, it's
fantastic.
You just make time, right? In writing a book with all the things I'm doing, I had to block out time on the weekends. There was sacrifice. It's like I live on Lake Travis here in Austin, Texas. There's a lot of days I wanted to be out on a jet ski or a boat goofing off on the lake, right?
Yes.
I live sandwiched between a lake and a resort. And so it's very tempting. Every time I step outside, there's tempting things to want to do. But if I'm going to finish a book, that means I can't do those things, right? Sometimes I would take the book to the pool with me and work on it there, right? But it's too distracting out on the lake.
Too distracting, exactly.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and but you got to build in time for fun too. If you don't, you will burn out. And so one of the things I do is I maintain a pretty rigid diet, and fitness routine, but on Saturdays, it's all gone. It's my cheat day. It's my rest day. I wake up, I eat pizza, I eat carrot cake, watch television, and I lay in my bed, right? Because if you don't take, it's like the notion of a Sabbath, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When God created man, he even took a day of rest,
Yes.
Whether you believe it or not, I believe it.
I do believe it.
Okay,
100%.
all right. Right. So Elijah, are you Muslim name?
I actually used to be Muslim. I became atheist, and then I became Christian. So I have a very interesting converting. The night that I converted in my head was basically when I realized development, like app development and coding, was basically like this life comes with a bunch of rules written, right? So it's like the DNA and all these codes are very perfectly aligned for us as systems to function. So some higher mind, higher genius created human's brain that is the most complex organ, and I realized that the actual implementation of the laws that are for human being is Jesus Christ. So the actual practical implementation, not the science, the practical science, the practiced science. And I actually came to this conclusion that is like the faith is complete with the sacrifice of Jesus, because if you even look into Kabbalah, you see that they have a tree of life, and they have all these elements, including knowledge, wisdom, surrender, but they miss sacrifice. They miss the correct way of teaching sacrifice, and Jesus completed that. Some people say Jesus was Kabbalist, but the fact that he added this teaching to like the whole humanity is just fantastic. And you know, that's from the father that is like very caring about the father and son relationship, because he stopped Abraham, don't kill your son. Now I know that's the ultimate test. Your son dying in front of you, you sacrificing your own son. So Jesus taught the real sacrifice, and God really just gave his son for us. And this is just beautiful. Like in my brain, everything just made sense that night. And I'm like, my respect for...
Now I'm gonna interview you, Elijah.
No, I knew it. I knew it. The moment I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and I actually saw some of your podcasts, I knew that I'm gonna have a lot to talk to you about. And yeah, so
the interesting thing is, I was an atheist, so I've covered all the ground that you've covered as well. I grew up an atheist. I was atheist until I was 24 years old, and then at 24 I became a Christian.
Wow.
And then 10 years later, after that, I wanted to know what the other half of the world believed, so I read the Quran. And much to my amazement, so a lot of it's the same, right? A lot of it's the same.
Yes.
Except you know, there's a, you know, Muslims, as you know, believe that Jesus is the Messiah, that he is the deliverer of the good news, that he's born of the Virgin. Most Christians don't know this, right? You read it, you're like, hey, most of it's right there. You know, the one thing that's missing in the Quran is the atoning sacrifice. The atoning sacrifice, right? And so I have spent a lot of time in the Middle East and talking to my Muslim friends, many Muslim friends, and you know what? The really strong believing Muslims, the ones that you know are genuinely seeking a right relationship with God, they know that there's 4 Quran verses that tie the Quran back to the Old and New Testament prophets, right? It says we don't differentiate between the messengers, and so if you point that out to them and you say, hey, look, there were messengers before Muhammad, let's go look. And then you go look and say, what does it say? What does it say Jesus did? You know, he was the Messiah. Yes, he was the deliverer of the good news. Yes, he was born of a virgin, but he also died for your sins and mine, right?
Completely.
And that's the one thing that I think is often missing. But it's not contrary to Islam. It's the deeper dive of Islam, if you ask me. Right? It's the Muslim who wants to do the deeper dive, and I've met those Muslims, and they're great conversations to have. I love having those conversations.
Same.
Right? Yeah.
It's actually nice because, like, you know, like when you say to Muslims that, okay, you believe that it's a prophet, Jesus was a prophet, but prophet is delivering, not dying for your sins. Dying is someone else's job. It's the sacrificing God's job, right? So the teaching of sacrifice is so important, man. And like
it is not contrary to Islam. It's not contrary. It's just it's the complete. It's like if you read the Jewish, and I've studied Kabbalah. I've studied the Old Testament in Hebrew with a Jewish friend of mine. I've done it all, right? And so if you look at the idea of the Messiah, that is the completed Jew, right? Jesus was Jewish,
Yes,
right?
it was
And
Jewish.
I think the notion of the sacrifice that you talked about is really the completed Muslim as well. It's we all believe in the same God, right? I just gave
Yes.
a talk on this in Pakistan where it's the God of Abraham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Abraham had Ishmael, and he had, what was his other son's name?
Abraham. I don't have.
Isaac.
Sorry.
Isaac.
Isaac.
Abraham and Isaac, Ishmael and Isaac, right? And Isaac had Jacob. We don't need to do a deep dive on this, but it's fascinating because we all go back to the same original father Abraham. And so,
Exactly.
anyways, we could talk all day on that, and
Forever.
we'll take the whole
Yeah.
podcast, right?
Let's bring it, actually make it tech related, because we know that AI is here, and now there are a bunch of things that you can do, and one of the awesome things that I realized that you can do right now is that you can program or code with your language, right? So you could set conditions, set rules, set all those different variables. And recently I realized, just by the word Jesus, how many ethical parameters I'm applying to that virtual assistant, just by saying that act like Jesus, right? And it's just fascinating to me that we could reference these codes, just like how code libraries, you install them, you could now reference some variables by just saying the good keywords, the actual keywords.
Yeah, I used it for a talk. I was giving a talk on that topic, right? I know what I know, but I don't know what the universe knows.
Exactly.
ChatGPT does, right? And so, what are the similarities and differences between Christianity and Islam? You put that in, boom. I mean, it does an amazing job, right? It just pulls from the universe out there, and I find that it's not biased. It may be biased on politics, but when it comes to matters of faith and religion, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. What do Hindus believe? I put all that stuff in there, right? And ChatGPT just does the work for me. You get 2 or 3 page summary, and it's man, now I know, right? I've done that on all sorts of stuff. But thank goodness I wrote my book. I mean, we're part of what we're talking about is I just wrote this book called How to Live the Abundant Life. Thank goodness I wrote it before ChatGPT. I was finishing it up, and the temptation would be there to go and access the universe's thoughts on all these topics, as opposed to my own living. In fact, I've got a friend who's dyslexic, and so he can't really read or write at any length of time, right? I mean, it starts to hurt his head. So he's actually using ChatGPT to write a book.
That's
so
interesting.
He's driving it, and it's he's putting the input in, and ChatGPT is bringing it out. And so I don't know if that'll be too mechanical. I'm not sure. He better have a human being edit it, or there's gonna be too many semicolons in it probably, because people don't write with semicolons the way ChatGPT does.
That's facts. ChatGPT and AI in general, there are what we see it is that they're all simulation, right? ChatGPT is a simulation of a conversation that you have, but simulation in general can be considered some sort of experimentation in the digital realm, right? So right now, thanks to AI, thanks to these words being this valuable, we could now instruct it to basically hypothetically test specific scenarios based on some variables, and that would give us a clear understanding of what the practiced knowledge would look like, right? So it's we could test a chemical reaction, inputting all those different chemical things, and it knows chemistry. So just by saying chemistry, that whole science is applied to the simulation. And this is interesting because right now we believe that AI is going to bring that abundance on Earth, and I was really curious on talking about abundance with you. And do you believe that we're gonna have something like this on Earth? Some people think it's impossible. We would never have perfect, and perfect never exist. Nothing perfect. But I say, as long as you know the goal, like perfect apple is an apple that serves the goal of being an apple, right? And perfect human is serves the goal, but like what is the goal? God knows. Yeah.
Well, God does know, and
Yeah.
that's the whole key of this book is if you go through my book, uh, it, people hear the word abundance and they think I'm talking about riches and wealth. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about abundance in joy. In fact, I have a whole definition I put of abundance. It's long, but it's about doing what comes. It's the opposite of what comes natural to human nature, right? If you look at, you and I started talking about Jesus. If you look at Jesus, everything about Jesus' life was contrary to human nature, right?
Yeah.
Right? If you want to be first, if you want to be first, you must be last and servant of all. That's totally contrary to human nature,
It
right?
is. Yes.
So, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? And so if I'm mad at you, I might react negatively, but I have to think, how would I want you, Elijah, to react to me? And that might change the way I behave to you. And so if you go through my book, it's really taking those applications and applying them to all facets of life, right?
Yeah.
Not just matters of faith. It's a matter of finding your purpose, right?
Exactly.
Maintaining a sound mind, growing spiritually. That's one of the things, right? Maintaining a healthy body, pursuing personal growth,
Definitely.
developing and maintaining personal relationships. That's
Yes.
within your family and outside of your family. And then also establishing boundaries, right? I mean, you saw Jesus would withdraw and go up on the mountain and pray. He had boundaries, right? He didn't let everybody get at him all the time. And so we have to do that as well. It's about being likable. If you want people to like you, you need to be likable. And there's certain applications I put in the book on how to be likable and make people like you, developing character and building a legacy, and then being part of a community, and then how your mindset matters in all of these things. And so it goes down to even what you say, because if you think about it, people are pretty negative, you might wake up and say like,
Definitely.
I don't feel good, I look like crap, you say these things like I'm getting old. Like, you speak that stuff on yourself, you're speaking that into existence, right?
Exactly. Yes.
I don't, you look at people that walk around and say, I'm blessed and highly favored, right? And you know what? They are, because they're speaking it out. They're putting that energy out, and it's coming back on them. And so a lot of times we think first, we speak, and then things become a reality, right? And if all you do is think bad things and say negative things, negative stuff's going to come back. I bet the same is with AI, right? If you put, you're going to get back what you put in, right?
Definitely.
It's
Definitely.
no different.
Yes, it's beautiful that we co-created language, like we, the flesh, co-created language as like chair. It's like God didn't, like the like God of all didn't do it. Us humans did it, right? But we are co-creating, and we are sharing that creation with God. And right now we're coming to this point that like we're speaking our reality, and that's facts, because our creation is actually God's creation, because we are God's creation, and it's is to like basically parent and child, like in development, right? But this is something interesting that I wanted to share with you and like ask your advice on it. I've been into neuroscience, and I've been researching a bunch of different books. I came to this book called The Mind of God, and it's talking about like how we know human brain and how we study it, basically. Like, we don't know nothing from it. We just know that it's two parts, mammalian and reptilian. Reptilian is very automatic, and like it has nothing to, it comes from the flesh, and like the free will doesn't go there. That's like completely automatic. It's like a machine, it's like a system. But the free will is something that we have control over. But what we can do in life is to take control of reptilian brain with mammalian brain, be proactive, and then install some specific sort of like routines and behaviors on ourselves. Like, for example, when we talk, we're basically holding our breath hostage for words to come out at specific pace, because breathing is automatic, but talking is not automatic. Talking requires the free will to actually take control of that reptilian. And when I saw all the things that reptilian brain does on the body and what Jesus teaches, it's fascinating that everything that he says, like every teaching, is kind of taking control of your flesh, of your reptilian brain that is right now clearly defined by science. And I'm going to just read it for you. It's very interesting. So, territorial behavior, autonomic behavior, basically anger and dominance. Wait 1 second, sorry. Ritualistic behavior and survival instincts. So if you think about it, survival instinct, Jesus died for us, we are saved. That's survival. Territoriality, this is the land of God, nobody owns anything, we're all owned by God. Ritualistic behavior, we can go smoke cigarettes or we can go pray. Praying is a ritualistic behavior that is injecting here. Dominance and aggression, that is taught that like don't be angry in the Bible. They're saying like fight this feeling. Autonomic functions, which is talking and like heart rate and body temperature. So all the neuroscience books talk about these autonomic functions, but nobody talks about all these 4 different ones that are territoriality, ritualistic, dominance, that basically Jesus teaches to take control over. What do you think about this whole scientific religious cross discovery?
Well, let me relate that to technology and software. Okay.
Yes.
So you got a computer and it's acting up. It's doing whatever it wants to do, right? We've all had it, right? And usually there's a software fix for that, right? And so it's kind of like that reptilian human that you describe. I call it sinful flesh. It's because I lived that way for 24 years. I did all those things that you talked about. You just do what comes natural to the flesh, exactly. Right?
Yes.
And then you realize something's not right? I need to fix my computer. I need to fix the human computer. And so you go surrender your life to Jesus. But it doesn't end there, right? Like there's a software download, and that download is the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And when the Holy Spirit comes in you, then you have the solution. But you could have downloaded that software on your computer and you're not running it, and it's not helping you at all, right?
Exactly.
If you don't run it, if you don't yield your computer to that software download, it's not going to fix your problems, right?
Exactly.
And so you may have the Holy Spirit in you, but unless you yield to it, unless you activate that software, you're still going to be the same messed up person you were before. And so it's a matter of yielding to the Spirit. And so I know all too well, because I was doing things I didn't want to do, just like your computer might be doing stuff you don't want it to do. And then when I came to Christ and I received the Holy Spirit and I yielded to the Holy Spirit, all of a sudden I now had the power to change my behaviors. Exactly. Then I could do the things that I write about in my book, How to Live the Abundant Life. But it wasn't until I had the download, right?
Exactly. That is very interesting, man. And you are basically a very practical teacher, and this is why I believe like in the world we have two, like everything divides by two things. Like it's either theoretical or practical. All these things that we're talking about, that installing the software is not possible by just knowing that software exists. You have to actually do it, right? So it's the doing.
You gotta click
acting.
on it.
Yes.
You gotta, yeah, exactly. If you don't go and go out and receive it, right?
Yes.
Like it may be a free software. It's like a free gift, right?
Yeah.
But unless you go and you take that free gift, it's just sitting there on the internet.
Sitting there, knowing it doesn't solve anything.
It's not solving anything until you reach out and receive it.
That's facts. And we believe that right now with AI, we could do a bunch of things and practice the existing knowledge in the world and make it more like a wisdom, right? And we don't need to dedicate that much time or resources to make that knowledge practiced, right? So how many, for example, drugs I can practice during the day to help science, not that many, because I'm fledged, like I'm gonna be damaged. But AI words could now simulate that based on past data, based on a lot of the databases that we didn't even consider, like us scientists, because we wouldn't make sense of it. But now AI can, and that means a lot of human trials would go less and AI simulations would be more. So in the business development era, how many possibilities can you picture that about AI simulating different scenarios that otherwise it would be costly for us human to do the trial and error?
Well, I have seen AI come up with crafty ways of crafting messages,
Mm.
but what it doesn't do is it doesn't build human relationships.
Yes.
There's certain limitations that AI has. AI may help you develop a target list. It may help you figure out like the market you want to go after. It may even figure out your messaging. It could do a lot of that stuff. But what it's not going to do is it's not going to go out to reception or a happy hour or whatever, a networking event and build
Definitely.
a personal relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
And so much of what happens in the world is built on relationships. Right?
Yeah.
I may have a phone number that I got through AI for a world leader, but if I send that world leader a text message, he's going to ignore me because there's no relationship. But if I've gotten to know that world leader and I've built a relationship with them, as I have some world leaders, they take my text messages because they know me. So I think it could help me say what I'm going to say better, but unless I have a relationship, that message is going to get lost.
You're absolutely right, but I was thinking, like, in business, you're right, everything is more relationships, but even with the stats and the data that we have, because big data is the biggest asset of every company nowadays, because it's their history, it's something that they can study and kind of like predict the future or make decisions based on different factors. So what I would see it is basically in businesses using this data to simulate different scenarios and understand their data better and do things that otherwise they had to pay, like run a social media campaign for 10 weeks and estimate the virality of these are the simulations that we can sit and plan. Right now we believe that planning is now double layered. Like we could plan a little bit more than just the knowledge. We could practice the plan and have kind of wisdom from it. It's not just knowledge anymore. Like we could trust that wisdom a little bit, like at least like 80% in almost every industry. So what I see it, of course, like chatbots and like virtual assistants, those are like conversational models, but we are trying to focus on simulation models, if that makes sense.
It does. I think it can get you to a point, right? As somebody who's operated at the highest levels in business development, I was selling. I wasn't really selling, but I was building relationships that would facilitate the buying of like very expensive legal services or accounting services. Now with AI, I could go to a meeting better equipped with the arguments to get a deal done, but without that relationship, forget it, right? Yeah, you can do social media campaigns and you can get viral and all of that. Yeah, I've seen all of that. But when you're talking about $1 billion deals, AI is not going to facilitate $1 billion deal, right? It might help you get the edge so that when you may have that meeting to close that $1 billion deal, you know what to say. But unless you have the relationship, you're never gonna get to make the argument. So I think that it's helpful, but to a point.
Okay, so how autonomous do you think we should leave these AIs to be? Because as you may know, they're making themselves better, and you say that it might not come to the human connection level, but I tell you, like, trust me, in like a couple of years, when we have robot bodies that are good, and then we install these AIs and they become autonomous, that's when problem begins. Like,
Oh, I've seen it.
you know,
I've seen it. I'm working with a company that's got robots that
yeah,
replace security guards. Right? Like
exactly.
that's happening, right? I listened to a doctor on just yesterday
Mm,
on Joe Rogan talking about how he's moving his whole like medical practice into a large language model. They're doing a proprietary interface, but that AI is going to know your blood pressure. It's going to know when you took your
mm,
last dose of medicine. It's going to know your vitals. It's going to know your history. It's going to know your diet. It's going to know a lot more than a human being would know, and it's going
yes.
to be able to access a lot more information to bring solutions to you as a patient. And so, I think it is going to replace a lot of those functions, but
Mm,
I don't think you're going to go on and hire an AI doctor. There's a doctor
no way.
who's still the doctor in that practice,
Yeah.
and you're gonna subscribe to his AI platform because you trust him. So
Mm,
I still think there's relationship.
mm,
Yeah, we go to Google and we. Everybody does their own diagnosis nowadays, and AI is going to make that all the better, right? You're going to have
yes.
AI diagnosis, but but that AI is not going to write you a script. he's, he's not going to give you the prescription that you want or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, right? Like there's still a
Yeah.
human element there. So I
Exactly.
think I think it's helpful to a point. I was also listening to actually a comedian talking about how we're going to
Mm.
have AI simulated events that are going to cause people to riot in the streets, right? And like
Oh my
they're
God.
going to be rioting over stuff that wasn't even like it didn't even happen. It was fake, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen some of the deep fakes out there, like people saying stuff that they didn't say, and you're
Yeah.
like, but now, I mean, the educated among us are onto it, right? If I see something that looks outrageous, like they had
Mm.
AOC saying something crazy, and I'm like, no, she didn't say that. I mean, she
Yeah.
may be she may be a little stupid, but she's not. She didn't say that, And
Yeah.
and then you read the comments, you're like, yeah, yeah, deep fake, So people are onto it, right? But the problem is, I don't know that everybody's onto it. There's a lot of uneducated people out there that don't know about this stuff, and they see a
Exactly.
video of something happening and they think, oh, that really happened. They
Mm.
simulate a George Floyd like event, and it causes people to go crazy,
Oh my
and it's like it
God.
didn't even happen, right? Like that didn't even happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that's
that
facts.
is possible with
It
AI,
is.
and so you can influence whole movements in society. Like half the stuff you see with the Israeli Gaza conflict,
Oh my God, did
I,
you
I
see
I
that?
see the videos like, all right, is that real?
Yeah,
Like,
like
is
how
that
can you
real? Like,
tell now?
don't
That's the
know
worst
because
part of it. Yeah.
because the information's being weaponized on both sides,
Mm.
right? Both
Mm.
sides. And so, I don't want to see anybody dying on either side, but I
Mm.
don't buy into the stuff that they put out there because I don't know that it's real. I, I don't,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah,
so
fact.
I think we need to get to a point as a society where we question everything. We
True.
question everything. You could see a video of your wife having sex with another man, and it didn't really happen, right? It's a
Yeah.
deep fake. Like that exists. I'm not stupid to think that those things can't happen. But if I saw something like that, that would be my first inclination. Like she
Yeah,
didn't
this
do
is to
that.
draw
I
the
know
line.
her. I
Cause
have a
yeah.
relationship with her. She didn't do that,
No,
right?
this is perfect that like in my opinion, I think that we have no geographical borders. It's only emotional borders that like we have to set on earth as like children of God. So instead of like actually I think with AI we get to set those emotional borders with these robots, right? So it has to come to a default of like applied all of those parameters of how to specifically behave and be moderated, so it just flags when it's something like how ChatGPT really is right now. So it's like you can't really do like illegal stuff with it. It's moderated, and I did the same thing with VFitter, which is like if they type like something very bad, like they would get a flag, and they could have like a bunch of those. But what we are really trying to do at VFitter is really fixing the education system. And we are trying to do that with AI because we believe that AI and education, they are really like just for each other. And right now the education system is very broken in a way that like let's say in a resume or like a CV, you have two parts. One, the education part, One, the experience. But when people are hiring you in the job economy, nobody cares about the education part. But yet I get charged £60,000 for my whole education part, for a certification and a degree, and it's just there, right? So it's like nobody cares about that. And for the rest, I need education. Like if I'm getting hired for the first place. So I thought, okay, why are education and practice so apart? Can't they not be in the same organization? I realized, okay, maybe universities as a single organization are not as efficient as we thought they could be. Why? Because they don't know all the information in different brands to make them practical, because it's confidential, right? So why not every brand has a department called university, like a extra department that would focus on the return on learning and hire teachers who would teach the practical things to basically the youth, right? And it's like, go to Apple University and then work in Apple, because you are now practical for Apple after your well-rounded education in school, you know? Now it's the university.
I think to a point, I beg to differ with you a little bit on that, right? So I went to undergraduate, I went to Ohio University. It's a unique experience. Graduate school, I went to Indiana University, got my MBA there. And then later in life, I didn't have the grades when I was younger to go to Harvard, but later in life, I wanted to go to Harvard. So I went to an executive education program there. And so if I'm reviewing somebody's resume or LinkedIn, and they've got some combination of those schools, I now have common ground with that person. It's not so much about the education, it's about, we have something to talk about, right? If they spent 4 years at Ohio University, Athens, Ohio is a unique place in all the world, right? And so all of a sudden, I'm instant friends with that person because where did you hang out? Like, where did you go? Were you in a fraternity? Were you in a sorority? Right? Like, we've got a common language to talk about. Same thing with Indiana, even Harvard, right? Like, I have I'm not going to relate to people as much that went to UNC or USC or whatever, like other schools, right? So I think the whole education system is somewhat clubby, and I think that's why some of those elite universities have really helped propel people forward, because people that went to an Ivy League school and they see that same Ivy League school on somebody's resume, they tend to want to hire those people, right? And so you have Harvard alumni hiring Harvard alumni, right? You ever watch that show Suits? The
legal one.
Yeah, right. They all hire people from Harvard, right? And so it's like a Harvard club. So there is that the old education system sits there and does differentiate a little bit. So I wouldn't totally dismiss it. It's not so much about what you learn, but it's a common experience. It's not too different that if, like, I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army, right?
Wow.
I went to infantry school. I went to airborne school, right? If I see on somebody's resume that they went to infantry school and they're airborne, all of a sudden I've got something in common with that person, right? And so we're going to talk about that because I know what it was like to do that. Or I'm a private pilot, right? If I see somebody's got private pilot on their resume, all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that's not easy. Like, I know how hard it was to get a pilot's license, so I'm going to want to talk to that person because they differentiated themselves. So I think you need to think about those kind of common human connections that we have around shared experiences, right?
You're absolutely right. I was thinking, though, can I not do it like in that section and like do it every other section? And like, would that have the same effect, or does the degree by itself? Because I'm thinking, if you're telling me that in the companies they hire based on like, if they find a connection, then the connection could be anywhere in the resume. You know what I mean? Like, it could be in my city, in my like something that I like, my hobbies, or like anything that is like related to my character, because that's what companies should care for. Because if
I think
they're
it's more
looking for
important. I think that's more important than actual education, right?
Yes, exactly.
I think it's
That's what
more
I was.
important. I think it's a common, like, I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers
Mm,
early on in my career. If I
mm,
see PricewaterhouseCoopers on somebody's resume, oh, you spent time there. What years were you there? What did you do? Like,
mm,
what office were you in? Like, all of a sudden we have that connection, right?
mm, mm,
I think, I think that is what is really key when I'm looking at, if you've got 100 resumes
mm.
and everybody's got, great experience and,
Mm,
degrees and all that stuff. It's the ones where I'm going to look at and I'm going to have some sort of similarity with that person. Like,
mm,
oh, you worked at the same company as me. Oh, you went to the same college as me.
mm.
Oh, you went to the same, airborne school as me, or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like those are the ones I'm going to be attracted to because I now can relate to that person better than the other people.
Absolutely. Yes. Um, I was going to do one thing and share my screen, but I don't know if you can see it. A spacecraft that reaches 5 to 20% of light speed for us to arrive by 2056.
Wow, that's
Right?
a long trip.
Yeah, that's a long
Jeez,
trip.
I don't know.
And who would do that for science, in my opinion? Like, what human being would do that for science when, in my opinion, the science is inwards, not outwards? Like, it's practical, not unpractical. Like, if I count all the planets in the universe, I come to a number, right? But is that number practical? Like, what is it going to do for me? Now, if I go read a sentence of Bible, how practical is that to me? So it's like, okay, don't if you don't like religion, that's fine. You're not a religious person, but at least you need to be practical because you're dying every second and your memory is being you're basically forgetting everything as you're living your life. And like, for example, whatever you uh, like learned in school, if it's not used, then it's gone, right? So somebody is now, like, as a whole university I'm talking about, they're uh, charging me for occupying my brain of something that I'm gonna forget, so it's not gonna become money and practical for me. And then I'm gonna be in the job markets doing actual job to become practical. You know what I mean? So that's how we differentiate between knowledge and practice.
Think
So,
about when I
mm,
think about educational experiences
mm,
that stick with me to this day,
mm,
it may not be the statistics or
mm,
how to run regression analysis or any of this kind of stuff, right?
mm.
I think about my first group project I
Yeah.
worked on in an MBA program. All right.
Or
I'll never forget it because everybody wanted to be involved with every aspect of everything that was being done on the project.
mm,
And we realized it was a disaster. Like we had, I don't know, like 8 people in a group and everybody was trying to write the essay. And
right.
we were arguing over every word of every sentence. And we're like, all right, this is not working. All right.
Yeah.
How about Joe, you write the essay. Mary, you develop the presentation, and Jim, you run the financials, and you
Mm,
just trust people to do their parts, and you
exactly.
divide it up, right? I will
Mm,
never forget that once we figured out that, look, we all got into this program. This is a hard program to get into. We're all smart people. Let's divide this stuff up and let's rely on the fellow team members. Once we did that and we brought it all together, it worked, right?
mm, yes.
Right, and when you had a diverse group too, it was even more interesting because you had people from different countries, different cultures, and it,
Mm,
it was a better product at the end. And so
mm,
those are the lessons I learned in education.
mm.
I may have
Nice.
forgotten how to run the numbers and do all that stuff, but I
Exactly.
remember the group dynamics and how
Yep.
to make things happen, and I use
Yep.
those lessons to this day. Also, like public speaking class, I remember, I was a disaster of a public speaker when I started that program, but
Mm,
I learned that over time, the less you cared about what the people thought, who you were speaking to, the better you could speak. And so if you
yes.
just don't care, if you
Mm,
just don't care,
yeah.
then it comes off better. I went from somebody who had to read an entire script
Mm,
to somebody who would write down my bullet points on an index card and put them in my pocket, and I'd memorize them in the shower, and
Yes.
I would give my speech. And you know what? I knew the card was in my pocket, but I knew I could always pull it out if I ever needed it, but I
Right,
never had.
you memorized it because the
Yeah.
practical memory is there to help you at that moment. Yes, this is
But those are the
perfect.
lessons.
Yeah.
Those are the lessons, right? And if I was just thrown into a work environment,
Mm.
would I have learned how to do that group dynamics, or how to overcome the fear of public speaking? I don't think so.
Mm.
I don't think so. I don't know how to, I don't remember how to run all the numbers or do all the analysis, but I know that they can be done. And I know there's people coming out of school that know how to do those things.
Mhm.
And I know how to task those people with doing those things so I get the results I need to make it happen. And so I think
Perfect.
I think that is the value of going through an education like that. So I'm not ready to poo-poo education, because I benefited from it. Even though I don't remember everything that I learned, I
Mm.
still use it.
Mm. Yes, absolutely agree with you. Some of it is awesome. Some of it is just like there to make it like well-rounded. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but that has to be free. You know, like governments right now are realizing this, that like people are not going to university, so they're actually giving you loans and like bunch of different programs so they could bring people there, but they don't really go. Like they're like, okay, I'll just go get the experience and I'll get hired, and like now I can feed my children. But yeah, so I am very enlightened right now. Thank you so much for being here. I just wanted your last advice for myself and for the audience, for entrepreneurs out there and visionary people. Can you please let us know your wisdom?
For entrepreneurs, well, being an entrepreneur is tough. I've done the entrepreneur thing now
Yeah.
successfully and unsuccessfully. So many entrepreneurs will develop a plan to do something, and then they go to try to raise money to do it. And the money doesn't. So I've been at this a long time. I started in the entrepreneurial space in the 90s, a long time ago. And back then, when the internet was new, you could come up with an idea and get it funded on an idea. But a lot of those investors back then lost a lot of money betting on these ideas. So nowadays, investors have wised up a bit, and they really want to see proof, right? You've got to prove out those ideas. And so, unless you're somebody who has been successful in the past and delivered returns to investors in the past, those people can get money. Those people, money will flow to them because they're betting on that person. But if you're a person who hasn't done that before, you either team up with somebody who has, or you prove out the model. And so you've got to be a little bit more, bootstrapped about how you do it, right? You got to figure out ways to get people to pay you for what you're doing, so that you can attract money down the road. And so I know, because we help companies raise money, as part of our business. And I know that the money, if you just send out an idea that has no revenue, no traction, it gets nowhere. But if somebody's proven out the model, they've got people paying them for what they're doing. You've got not just one customer, but 3 or more customers, to show that it's not all concentrated in one customer. Then the investors go, oh, wow, you did that with how much resources? Oh, so if you put $100,000 towards this and you yielded those types of results, if I put $1 million or $3 million towards it, you're going to get better results, and you can prove out the model. That's using data to show your investors that this is a good
investment.
bet.
Yes.
Yeah, good investment.
Totally agree.
So,
Yeah. We're basically bootstrapped, so we haven't gotten like a single dollar as an investment, and I would say that we spent less than like $20,000 with all the costs, like even less than 10. Like I'm not sure of it, but yeah, everything we've built so far, like from the idea to the actual implementation, is bootstrapped. And but I carry the idea. Basically, I usually validate it with the co-founder, and then we go bring it to Ahmed, who is like very like negative, right? but I kind of need that negativity because I'm super positive and enthusiastic, and like when I come up with 10 ideas, somebody has to kill 8 of them so we could move on with 2, right? So otherwise it would just like be very unpractical.
Elijah, that's super
Yeah,
important. Okay,
it
so
is.
let's go back to my book,
Mm-mm.
since I just published a
Yes.
book. It's called How to Live the Abundant Life.
Mm.
When I started that book, I started it as a business book.
Mm.
It wasn't a self-help book. It was how to do the type of thing I did in my professional life.
Mm.
And I realized as I started the project that that's a limited universe. There's only so many people that are going to want to do business development and professional services. So I
Yeah.
realized that the same principles that I did in the professional services world that worked and made me very successful. I mean, I grew revenue at my last company from 310 million to over 2 billion in annual revenue,
Oh.
right? To do that, I did certain things that worked, right? When I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers, I grew market share by 33% in 2 years, right? That was using methodologies that work. But you know what? I realized that those same methodologies where you're giving, you're not taking, right? I'm going to see what I
Mm.
can do to help you rather than what you can do to help me. Those same applications work at home. They work in the community. And so I wrote the book encompassing, personal life, your community life, and then talk about the negative person, right?
Mm.
After finishing the book, I thought it was done. My daughter, who she's 27 years old now, she is somebody who reads a lot of these types of books, and she
Mm.
said, "Dad, I want to help you with this." Her name is Teresa. She goes by Twee. She read the book, and she said, "You know what she said? Just like your partner who kills your ideas."
Yeah.
She said, "Dad, you got to be willing to kill your baby." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't kill my baby."
Oh my
And she goes,
God.
"No,
Yes.
you have to." And you know what? She helped me kill about a third of my book,
Oh
about a
my God.
third of it, and then we had to rewrite it. She's like, "You got to rewrite this. You got to take this out, rewrite this." And so in doing that, I now have a book. It's hit number one in certain categories now because I changed it up. And had I left it the way it was, it would have appealed to the business person, not not the average person who's not trying to do this for business, right?
Yeah.
And so I think no matter what you're working on, having somebody who's willing to look at you and be honest with you with your best interests at heart and say,
Yes.
no, you can't, and I've had this with entrepreneurs too. Same thing. I've had ideas are easy, man. Like
Mm.
I've got great ideas all the time. Executing on them is hard. You
Yes.
ever listen to Elon Musk talk about all of his ideas? He said it's like he has a tormented mind because he has
Yeah.
so many ideas, right? And yet he's already doing too many things, you might say, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to focus. You've got to take the best of those ideas, and then executing them
True.
is what's hard. That's what's hard,
Exactly.
right? And so you can't execute on 100 ideas. You can only execute on
On a
one. If
few.
you
Yeah.
Elon Musk, you can do a handful. I've
Yeah.
got a handful myself, and I
Yes.
think the key to executing on a
Mm.
handful of ideas is surrounding yourself with good people, right? You've got to have
Exactly.
good people to help execute. So like that super connector thing, I spend maybe an hour a day on it,
Mm.
getting on the team call,
Mm.
but I don't have time to do that all day, right? But we've
Mm.
got a good team working on it. We've got a capable person managing it,
Mm.
and we trust her to do that. And so, having like my son with Capital Raise,
Mhm.
very capable. I raised him. He knows what he's doing. He's also a fellow, infantry officer, and so he's disciplined and well regimented, and he executes well. And so
Oh.
I've got him doing that. I can help sell it. I can help deliver a little bit, but I trust him to do that. And then he pulls in resources as he needs them, right? And
Yes.
so, I'm just saying, if you're going to execute on multiple ideas, you got to have multiple good people to help you execute on them.
Definitely. It takes a lot of courage. Like those people, they need to be killing your ideas, and that takes a lot of like sacrifice. Like, oh, I'm killing his idea, but like it's necessary because it's genuinely like from the wider picture is not good. And for us to be losing those ideas, it's rough, but it takes a lot of
But
courage.
you gotta listen to other people, Elijah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, even in finding what you're like, a part of my book is on finding your purpose, on
yeah.
finding your calling, and you know what, I didn't. I told you I spent 25 years doing business development. I didn't even set out to do that. It's not
Mm,
nothing I set out to do. I
mm,
got a phone call from somebody saying, "We want to hire you to come and do this."
mm.
And I said, "I don't think I want to do that." And then they told me what they were going to pay me to do it. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'll do that." You know,
Yeah.
and it turns out, you know what? I was really good at it. I was really good at it. And
Oh.
had I not listened to that person when they called me,
Mm,
I wouldn't have ever done it. Another thing that I, you know, I didn't like doing. I didn't like getting up and speaking in front of people. I already told you that, right? Like most people don't. It's like
yeah.
they fear speaking in public more than they do dying some cases, right? And
Yes.
so I remember the hardest speaking invitation I ever got was to speak in front of the church, to like to deliver the message at church. Could you
Wow.
imagine? Elijah, can you give the message this Sunday? Right? And
Wow.
it's terrifying because
Yeah.
that's a sacred duty, you know? And so
Yes.
I did it, and I, much to my amazement, people came up to me afterwards and said, "That was really good. You're good." And you
Wow.
listen to people say that, like, okay, I didn't know I was good, but that person who I respect just said I was good, right?
Wow.
And so it's like, all right, maybe I should do that, right? It's like I took up music. I wanted to be able to play the guitar and sing,
Mm,
and I had people close to me tell me that I wasn't good at it, maybe I should give it up, right? You know,
mm,
and you know what? They were right. It's not my gift, right?
mm.
But but speaking is a gift that I have, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't know that unless I listened to other people who I respect and trust to tell me that you're good at this, you're not good at that, right? And
Mm,
so I think just like with your business partner, right? You might have what you think is the best idea in the world, and then somebody shoots a bunch of holes in it, and you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. Maybe it was a
yeah.
good idea in my head, but in practicality, maybe it's not a good idea,
True.
right?
True.
So
True. True.
I think being able to surround yourself with people that are going to give you good feedback,
Yes.
not garbage feedback, good feedback
Mm,
is helpful.
perfect. Man, knowing all of the things from your book, I'm going to ask you, how can I help you now? like,
Uh,
like how can I help you, Carl?
but you know what? I think it's mutual help, right?
Definitely.
Like I didn't write this book. I'm selling it.
Mm,
You could buy the Kindle version for 99 cents. It's not like I'm making money
yes.
off of this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes, sir.
I have it out there for 99 cents. You can buy the hard copy for 12.95.
Mm,
And there's a lot of people that just like to have a hard copy. I understand. I don't like reading stuff on a screen. You know,
mm,
you want to be able to take the book on the airplane with you and read it, and that's
true.
fine. But I think there's principles in the book that can help people. And so if you
Mm,
go to Amazon or you go to barnesandnoble.com and you search on how to live the abundant life and you put
mm,
my name in, Carl Grant III, you'll find it. And get it. Either get the Kindle version for 99 cents or get the hard copy
mm,
and read it. And then you know what? Leave a
mm.
review. I
Yes,
want to. Fortunately, so far I've gotten all
definitely.
5-star reviews. You know, I'm sure eventually somebody's going to get it and it's going to rub them
No,
wrong. But
definitely not.
they haven't shown up on Amazon yet, at least.
I'm telling you, compared to all the people that I know, you're selling your wisdom the cheapest because it's like absolutely the greatest. And I'm like, I can't wait for the audio version. I talked to you that you said that it's coming out. I'm a very
I
audio
recorded
guy.
it myself. Yeah, I
Nice,
recorded it myself.
perfect, perfect.
But for some reason, it takes them a long time to get that out. It doesn't come out right
Yeah,
away, and
it's fine.
I'm sure
Mm,
there's stuff I'm going to have to re-record. You know, when you're recording audio,
mm,
sometimes you have the paper and it makes noise. I'm sure there's something that I'm going to
mm,
have to re-record, but they haven't told me yet.
maybe, maybe. I wouldn't care, man. Like even if somebody like is coughing in the background, like a dog bark, I'm like wisdom is talking. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I do audiobooks too,
Mm,
so I
mm,
understand. And when I listen to an audiobook,
mm,
I honestly I don't want to hear back to AI, I don't want to hear an AI voice reading a book, right? I,
Definitely
and
not.
I
Yeah.
and I want to hear the author's voice reading the book,
Yes,
right?
author. Hmm.
Even if it's somebody who's got a messed up voice, I want to hear it coming from that person. And so
Yeah.
I took the time to do it myself. It took hours upon hours. It wasn't easy to do, but I did it
Hmm.
because I that's what I would want to. It's like do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I want to hear the
Yeah.
author's voice, and so that's what I did.
Beautiful thing you did, because I always wanted this, like, whenever I hear like an AI voice, I'm like, this is not doing the job. It's not actually like hitting the right notes in my brain to understand like human language. It's very important to even deliver the emotions through the voice, because that's the reason I like audiobooks. Like, really, you want to hear what the emotion is that the person is just like want to infuse it there. Um,
I agree. So
yeah,
there's like back to the whole AI thing. There's certain things AI is not going to do. I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day talk about he was talking about AI and he said, you know, AI. I don't know if you ever listen to Joe Rogan. You ever
I
listen to
do,
his
I do.
podcast?
Very
So
fan.
he's got this thing he does called Protect the Parks, which is absolutely stupid nonsense, but it's funny, right?
Yeah.
He gets on there with his buddies, they get drunk and they get high, and they just talk complete nonsense. And he said, AI is never going to do protect the parks. It's never going to get drunk, and it's never going to mimic human stupidity. And
Yeah,
I
it's
agreed.
very
I'm like, yeah, you know what? Never are you going to see an AI do the protect the parks where you're just talking complete nonsense. You know what?
exactly.
It's entertaining, even though it's stupid. And you know what?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather hear me cough or stumble on a word and know that it's
Yeah.
me giving a sincere message,
Yeah,
right?
yes, human. It's human, and like it feels better, like compared to something like is over perfect. Because the purpose is still served if I cough, if I mess up this interview with you, even like if I like cough twice, or if I don't say like spell a word right. Who cares? Like at the end of the day, they just want to listen to the message, and if they get it, that's what matters. Thank
It's
you so much.
genuine. They want
Hmm.
genuine reality is what they want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's facts. Anyways, thank you so much for this interview. I'm very enlightened. Again, um, if you're watching this, go buy Carl's book. This is the best wisdom you could take out of life. And right now, it's in business development. So, business is a system, Bible is a system, human is a system, everything is a system, and we want to learn those systems to use them practically in life. Thank you so much for watching, and Carl, thank you so much for being here and giving us your time.
It's been a pleasure.